I absolutely suck at being happy with what I have. Have you honestly ever noticed how hard it is to stop? How hard it is to not constantly want more? Our brains are hardwired to actually always look for more, and it's not entirely social media's fault. It's because of this little cue that's hidden away, hardwired into our head that whispers into our ears and says, "You want more." This scarcity cue makes us fixate on what we don't have and makes us continue to strive for it until we obtain it. The only problem is the end goal that we're all looking for, we keep moving that goalpost. I wanted to understand why this was happening to me. And most importantly, to see if it's even possible for me to still obtain my goals, still strive for more, be driven, but at the same time be grateful and happy with what I have. 3 books came to mind when I started my research: Scarcity Brain, The Gap and the Gain, and Driven. The Scarcity Loop. That's the transition if you can't tell. Now look, I'm fully aware that I literally just got done telling you that it's not all social media's fault, and it's not. It's just social media is the thing that actually helped me realize I have a problem in the first place. I feel like sitting on the swing is as good a place as any. So Instagram in particular has been an issue for me since I started on Instagram. Like for the last 4 years, doesn't matter how my business is going, if I'm not doing well on Instagram for whatever reason, I'm in a bad mood. Perfect example is this. I remember a couple years ago, maybe a couple months ago, like in a single day, I made like $10,000. Now, granted, for some people that's like not a lot, but for me, it was a lot. And I'm not joking, that same day, I posted a piece of content online and it flopped. I don't even know how many views it got, it just wasn't a lot, and I was mad the entire day over Instagram. Now, to understand why this is happening, we have to take a look at the closest thing to Instagram, and that's actually slot machines. Believe it or not, slot machines weren't always this multi-billion-dollar industry it is today. It took a man by the name of C. Red in 1980s to discover that too many losses in a row lead to people not wanting to play. If people don't want to play, well, guess what? Casinos can't really make money. So one of the major decisions that Red made was to include losses disguised as wins. Take, for example, in the past, you go to the slot machine, you take $10 with you, you play for maybe 10 minutes, and you lose again and again and again. You're probably not very likely to continue to play. Now, today, what do you notice that happens? You take that same $10 and you probably play for 10, 15, 20 minutes, but you want to continue to play more. Why is that? Because these losses disguised as wins. You may win 20 cents here, 30 cents there. You never actually make your money, or you never hit the jackpot, but because you win a little bit at a time, you feel like you want to keep playing. You're almost at the jackpot. Because of this, billions every single year are spent on one silly game called slot machines. Really think about it though, these slot machines just play off this loop built inside our brains called the scarcity loop. Michael Easter, author of Scarcity Brain, breaks it down like this: opportunity, unpredictable results, quick repeatability. You have these 3 things, you can get stuck in the scarcity loop and continually be obsessed about it until you hit it. This is why casinos fit the loop perfectly. You walk up to a casino and immediately you hit with an opportunity. I can win a lot of money. Then every time you go to the casino, sometimes you may win big, and other times not so much. Unpredictable results. The last part of this is you can quickly play again and again. Dealer, hit me one more time. Hit the slot machine button one more time, and it rolls again and again. Fits the loop perfectly. But what else does this sound like? Social media. You sit down, you pull out your phone, you're bored, and there's an opportunity to kill some time. You scroll and you never know what you're going to get. A hilarious reel maybe, a cringe-worthy post by an influencer, or education on some shit you didn't even know you wanted to learn about. No matter what the results, you can quickly scroll again and again. So despite any success I had as an entrepreneur, I honestly always felt like a loser. I constantly made up a new goal, new offer, new something to hit, and I didn't realize this was even a problem until somebody asked me, "Hey, how do you celebrate your achievements?" I didn't have an answer. But because of the fact that I didn't have an answer, I thought maybe this is the reason why, even after 4 years of content creation and being an entrepreneur, and despite all the goals that I hit, I still kind of felt miserable. I can never understand why until I found The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. The Gap and the Gain. In a single book, the authors explain how it can be possible that some of the most powerful and rich people in the world can still be so damn miserable. The answer is most of us measure success wrong. Comparison is vital to understanding if what we're doing is working or not working, but there's 2 ways we can compare. The first is called the gap. It's where we compare where we are today with where we believe we should be. The problem with this line of thinking is that we're never going to be able to measure up, and always we're going to feel behind. On the other hand, though, we can compare where we are today with where we were. By looking backwards, we're able to, 1, always be ahead, and 2, have endless motivation for continual growth. We've all been measuring success wrong. And until we fix this, we'll always feel like we're not good enough. Seems easy enough, right? Wrong. Even though I'm aware it's happening, I still feel like an addict. I can't stop. The truth is, it doesn't even just stop at work or social media. It's in our daily lives. Take, for example, you are stuck in traffic. There's two, again, ways to think about it. If you're a habitual gap thinker like me, you think to yourself, man, I should be farther ahead. I should have left earlier. I should have done this. I should have done that. It's all shoulds and coulds. Gap thinking leads to frustration, anger, disappointment, where gain thinking helps you feel successful, helps you realize what you've achieved, boosts your self-esteem, and helps you accept what is. There's a certain type of people who struggle most with gain thinking, and it's the driven. Now, during this point in my life, I was in the middle of this manic entrepreneurial thinking, and I couldn't stop being in the gap. At this time, I came across Driven by Douglas Brockman. By came across, I mean my mother-in-law and my wife said, you're being crazy and you need to read this book. So when my wife and my mother-in-law suggested I read Driven, a lot of that came from the fact that, like, again, I just never felt like things were good enough. I never stopped to actually, like, enjoy the moment. I never stopped to actually, like, celebrate any wins. And I constantly, even when we're at, like, family function and stuff, like, I constantly was thinking about work. I was thinking about the next thing I was going to create. And I think in the span of, like, 6 months, I had come up with, like, several different iterations of the business. I kept changing things over and over again. And so when they suggested reading the book, honestly, it was out of almost like a necessity. Like, you need to read this book so you can calm down. Not that it made me stop and go, all right, I need to stop creating. It really just made me feel like I was normal. Because a lot of the people they talk about in the book is a lot of these entrepreneurs do struggle with the same things, and it's a superpower. And I was looking at it almost like a deficit, like, because I'm constantly in the future, I'm constantly creating what I think is coming down the line for businesses and things like that. I thought maybe, like, oh man, something's wrong with me. But something about hearing other people struggling through the same thing as me made me feel like, okay, it's not really that bad. But also that if they can harness this superpower, this like ability to constantly be in the future, this constant drive to the next thing, then maybe I can too. Douglas Brockman explains how entrepreneurs, Navy SEALs, and athletes all tend to have this genetic gift called a D4, D2 allele, and NPY, neuropeptide Y. This gift is seen in some of the most successful people in the world. If not used correctly, though, it can be more like a curse. Remember when Elon Musk was on Joe Rogan Experience and he said basically, hey man, you don't want to be like me? So the D2 and D4 allele is our ability to multi-think, while NPY is the resilience gene. It tells us basically, hey, despite all the setbacks and disappointments, you need to keep going. It's the reason why Navy SEALs are able to make it through Bud's training, and well, Lions fans like me are able to watch despite the fact that we continue to keep losing. NPY tells us forget the past, keep moving, keep going. This all sounds great, except for people like me, it makes you skip the lessons. You don't learn anything. You just keep going and making the same mistakes. This was happening to me. I would launch a product, it would fail. I would do a social media post, it would fail. And guess what? I would keep going. And by the way, keep doing the same thing over and over again. You can see how ultimately this would be a great trait, right? It's like a freight train. You keep moving, you keep going, you gain momentum. The problem with this is for people like me, again, we miss the lessons, we miss the opportunities. But we also, because of this constant momentum, it's easy to fall back into the gap thinking. If you're constantly thinking about the future, if you're constantly dreaming about the clients you're going to have or the tons of followers or whatever influence you're going to have, you're not spending time in the present moment. You spend a lot of time in the future, which, by the way, does not actually exist. So by the time you come back to earth and you come back to the present moment, after you spend all this time in the future, guess what happens? You kind of fall into a depression. You feel like you're not very far ahead. I knew why all this was happening, but I needed tools to help me through it. And after years of listening to friends and family, I started actually journaling. So despite the fact that countless people have told me I needed to do a gratitude journal and I never listened, I decided to finally try it out, right? I wanted to see if it's really possible just answering what am I grateful for can make me come back to the present moment and start being grateful. At first, though, coming up with 3 things seemed daunting. For some reason, my brain would stop at 1 or 2, or I would just repeat the same things every single day. But over time, just like any skill, I started getting a little bit better at it. I started to find the smallest of things to be grateful for my family, to being grateful for the ability I have to create, or being grateful for a single conversation I have with my wife. Each night that I sat down to reflect, I started to notice how the fact of writing what I'm grateful for pulled me out of this scarcity loop and into one of abundance. Now, for the other problem, I still would find myself sprinting into the future, not being present. Could be with my wife at lunch, for example, and be still thinking about work, or being at work and thinking about 10 other things I need to get done. We all have roles we play, and a few of us only have just one. For me, for example, I'm a husband, father, digital entrepreneur, content creator, an employee of a sales and marketing automation company. But before entering each role, I just remind myself of 2 things. 1, who do I get to be in that moment? and where I am. So recently, my wife and I went on a trip to Flagstaff, Arizona, for example, and on most trips, I'm honestly in a bad mood. I have things I want to work on, things I'm thinking about that I need to do when we get back. But starting on the trip, I reminded myself of my role. I reminded myself that I'm a husband, and that's who I get to show up as in that moment. The moment that I started to spiral and think about things I could be doing or should be doing, I would just ask myself simply, where am I right now? That one simple question would bring me back to the present moment. So look, no matter what you do or who you are affected by this scarcity loop. You're affected by these cues we all see every single day, trying to keep up with the Joneses, a car you don't have, the house you want to have, the promotion you want to have. We all have these cues, but if you don't pay attention to them and notice it's happening and have tools to be able to get you out of this scarcity loop, you're going to be miserable like me. It's okay to want to have and be and do more with your life. There's nothing wrong with being driven. The problem is when you obsess about it more than you spend in the present moment with what you currently have, you're going to end up being miserable. So use these tools, try to stay in the present moment, stay in the gain, and you might just escape the scarcity loop and stop being miserable. If you like this video, do me a favor, hit the like button. It helps other people see this content so that we can help more people. The other thing is, if this QR code right here, if you want to make content like this, you've been thinking to yourself, man, first and foremost, I know I could do better than Raylen. I'm so tired of hearing these videos. I know I could do better. Hit the QR code. Watch this masterclass. It kind of explains how we go through and make videos like this. And do me a favor, as soon as you publish it, though, send it over to me so I can check it out and support you as well. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.